Welcome one and all to Umami Manga. I'm Petter and this is James.
Hello.
And today we're talking about volume 20 of To Your Eternity.
Ooh.
We are introduced to the future of this world in this volume. We have Kaibara cybernetics, which more or less is ruling the world through their wish granting, through this star rating system, where people can upvote and downvote one another to gain or lose stars. And yeah, so we're basically introduced to that whole concept. Very strange, I think, but it's interesting. And we're also introduced to this sentient doll who wishes to become a human. And through her, we learn more about this world, and this doll sets out to apprehend the Fushi squad, basically. And a toy crab joins the doll on her journey, and they end up meeting Kai and Echo. And after a lot of twists and turns and some action, the doll and the crab are introduced to the rest of Fushi's friends, as well as Fushi himself, eventually, as well. We learn that Kaibara has been making clones of Mizuha in order to maintain the Hayase bloodline.
Weirdos.
And it's looking like Kaibara is searching for the incredible power that the Beholder tossed away or left behind when Fushi declined it in the previous volume.
Ah, okay. That makes more sense.
At least that's how I interpreted that.
That makes a lot more sense. We could talk about when we get to it, but yeah, I was a little confused by that.
I see. Very well. And yeah, then the volume kind of ends with the group deciding to stop Kaibara from doing this, or from getting their hands on that power. And the doll is right there with them, proclaiming her dream to become a human one last time before the volume ends. So that's volume 20, and it's setting up this new, supposedly rather lengthy arc. I mean, I don't know. But it's a very, very exciting, and I personally I'm very happy with this new beginning.
Yeah.
And these new characters and whatnot.
I'm so excited. When I was reading those first few chapters, I'm so digging this right now. And then, when the immortals come in, and it was just hype.
Oh, yes.
I'm definitely curious about the future of this arc, but this is a great way to start it. And I can't wait not only to discuss it, but to eventually read the next chapters, whenever that it will be.
Right, precisely. Hopefully before the end of the year.
Yeah.
But we'll see, I suppose.
I think it might end up being November.
Okay, so there's a chance. I hope so. But yeah, it's great. And that we're finally actually in the future, as I think we pondered the idea of that a long time ago, like volume 1 or 2 discussions, if it would ever actually go that far, and here we are. It's so fun.
Yeah, I'm loving the world she's creating in the future. This kind of dystopian, almost kind of reminds me of Blade Runner a little bit.
Right.
If you've seen Blade Runner before.
I have, yeah. I definitely can see that. But it's funny that it's still just as much fantasy as this series always was.
Yes.
Even though it's future, it's not, or at least the way it doesn't seem that sci-fi. Like it's not science fiction. It's still fantasy.
Yeah.
But anyway, are we good to move into the character discussions?
Sure, let's do it.
Then we got to start with Dolly, I guess we could call her. Kai called her Dolly, and I think that's a good enough name for now, at least, unless anything else will come further down the line.
Yeah.
This doll who wants to become a human. Classic trope, I guess, Pinocchio, or, a lot of things have kind of been doing this sort of plot, but I like it.
Definitely not Fushi, by the way, because when we were going into the story, I think we were pretty convinced, that's got to be Fushi, right? Who else could it be?
Yeah, we just naturally assumed it was, but we were dead wrong.
I don't blame us, but it's for sure wrong, and you realize pretty quickly based on her personality, okay, no, this is something else. This is not Fushi.
Yeah, and there's a lot of mystery surrounding this doll. which I love. Like, it's very fun.
Yep.
It's sort of similar to how the previous New Age arc with like setting up the modern day, how that first volume left us with a lot of questions about Mizuha and whatever was going on there. This is sort of
Mm.
similar in that way, that the new character that's introduced has us asking so many questions. Like, how did this doll come to be exactly? Why does it know certain things and not other things? And like this anchovy ramen thing, like why does it know about that and
Mm-hmm.
whatnot? Why is it so strong? Like the voice activated punches, etc. Like it's very strange, and
Why does it want a big butt?
uh,
These are the questions that need answered.
that is a good question.
Interestingly, she awakes thinking that she needs to go somewhere. It's like, I gotta go. Wait, where do I
Mm,
go? And then the whole
mm,
amnesia thing comes in.
yeah,
So, like you said, there's a lot of mystery. Obviously, there was some sort of a mission that she had, um, and I'm very curious to find out what that original one was.
for
Um,
sure.
I'm not convinced that her purpose was to become human. Like that, I don't know if that was the original reason to come down. I guess.
I think it could be. Or
Okay.
at least based on my own speculation, and I'm going to share a bit of speculation on the doll here.
Okay.
I have a lot to talk about in predictions as well, so I'll I
Mm-hmm.
also have some stuff I want to talk about here regarding the doll.
Yeah.
Basically, my theory about this doll right now, based on obviously only on this volume's content, I think one of those Mizuha clones was, for one, aware of the fact that she was a clone. I don't know how it
Mm-hmm.
works exactly, if they are all naturally aware. Regardless, this
Mm.
I believe this one was aware of it, and she was dissatisfied with the fact that she was a clone. Like she
Mm-hmm.
didn't feel like her own person because of being a clone, or something like that. And so she removed the chip from her arm or her body or wherever, and somehow managed to transfer her consciousness into this doll.
Mm-hmm.
She probably worked for Kyber Cybernetics, since we know that the parts of the doll are from there somehow.
Mm.
Or I don't know.
Right.
This is partially headcanon stuff, but I'm basing it off of
No.
what's happening or what we've learned. And so basically, she wanted, or I guess her goal was to become her own human, her own person, without being a clone. And I don't know exactly what her plan would have been, but as part of her, I guess, plan to achieve her goal of becoming an actual human, which is what I believe what she said. The text was kind of cut off in that little vision that we
Mm-hmm.
got of her. She says something human. I think she said she wanted to become an actual human, or at least that's my theory right now.
That's what I thought as well. That
Mm,
it seems to fit.
right. So I do think that was that girl's dream,
Mm-hmm.
and as I said, I think she somehow transferred her consciousness into the doll. So like her body died, and that's why we get the message of number 20 or 32 or whatever being dead.
Mm-hmm.
But she is alive inside of the doll. But her memories have been warped or kind of
Mm.
something like that.
Yeah.
And this doll is kind of part like a step in her process of achieving her dream of becoming an actual human somehow, for some
Mm-hmm.
reason that we don't know
Mm-hmm.
yet exactly. Anyway, that's just kind of my theory on that right now. And
Yeah.
I think maybe because we also got like updates about her self identity and how like the system of that being restored ever so slightly throughout the volume. It started with like 0.5% and then it increased to 0.9, and by the end of the volume it's at 1.02%. And so that's increasing. And
Where was that percentage again?
well, the first time it was spelled out for us with actual text. The first time it happened, it was when we got to see the girl in the dream the first time, when she said something, maybe perhaps when she may have said actual human, like the page right before that. We got the first thing. It says self identity system partially restored. 0.5%. And then it appeared
Oh,
two more
that part.
times.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
It appeared two more times, and the percentage was going up ever so slightly.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and the last time we see it in the volume, it's at 1.02%. So it's increasing, and I think it's going to continue to increase. And I think as it does, maybe she will learn or remember more of her previous life as the Mizuha clone.
Mm.
So that could be a key in that. There may also be data on the chip that may help her along with that potentially.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with all of what you said. I think that's a strong possibility of where the story is going. And I think it's important to note that when we start the story, uh, Dolly was falling to the ground,
Yeah,
and it seemed like it came from the Kaibara Crest area, which seems to be the headquarters.
precisely.
So I think it's a pretty good indication that she is indeed from there, and it not only the Kaibara parts, but the chip being uh, a, of a dead clone. It just it makes sense. Um, and also the key word punch being one, but also mud being the
Yeah,
one to indicate that this clone is dead or something. I don't know if that's specifically what it activates, but that's what
yeah.
the chip kept saying.
Mm-hmm.
It seems very planned.
I wondered if Mud or something that sounds similar to Mud was the name of that clone, but I
Oh,
wasn't.
that'd be kind of sad.
Yeah, at least if it's exactly as Mud, then that's very sad.
Uh
Or
huh.
I figured it was maybe something that sounds sort of similar to it.
Mado, I don't know. That's a good idea. But as to why this is all happening later, or what well, I guess going back to the whole human thing, I do agree with you that becoming human is certainly part of uh the original plan, even though we may not understand what that completely means. It could mean that this clone felt trapped uh where they were and wanting to escape to the real world. Maybe the Kaibara place is not right.
Mm.
Although, well, I'll say some of this for predictions, but
Hmm.
I think that anything to do with the Kaibara company is probably not going to be ideal, and I'm sure someone
Yeah.
will want to escape, especially a clone. So um, maybe, like you said, they want to feel like their own person, but they can't escape. They can't think of any other way to escape, so they create this plan of sorts, and Dolly is part of it. So that's my
Mm,
thinking right now.
right.
Yeah.
I was also a bit confused about the tag chip around her neck. Like, was it there from the start of her introduction in the volume, just beneath the cloth of her dress, or did she actually receive it at some point during the volume? It's a bit unclear.
It is pretty unclear. It seems to just suddenly appear, but maybe it was always there. I don't know. If they don't talk about it, then of course I'll assume it's just always been it was always there, and they just never touched on it.
I mean, the girl, the Mizuha clone, had it around her neck as well,
Mm-hmm.
and whether I'm right with my speculation or not, somehow Dolly came from that clone. Like, in one way or another, it's got to be that chip. It would have been strange if she suddenly had it around her neck through some other means. I guess.
Yeah, I have a potential theory about that, but I'll save it for later.
Gotcha. Sorry if I'm moving ahead too fast. Do you
No,
think the ramen chef is actually has anything to do with it, or do you think that was just like a
clearly,
gag?
clearly, no, it's a gag.
I mean, well, it was.
Uh,
I read it as the gag the first time, but then she brought it up again. And I'm like, wait, could it actually be something with the ramen chef?
nah,
Because
it's a
he
gag.
was shady. Like, he didn't show his face. I don't know. what if there is something with that guy?
I I will say that how many times the katsu ramen was brought up is a little was a little odd, but I took it as comedy, but yeah, maybe she's trying to hint at something there.
I don't
I don't
know.
know,
I don't
but
know.
I'm not gonna read too much into it yet. Although that I'll eat crow. I'll eat crow if it is.
Well, yeah, we'll have to see.
Yeah.
I am very excited for what I'm assuming is going to happen when they will analyze Dolly's dream, the one that she recorded in the earthenware pot.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're probably gonna do that at some point, and I feel like they're gonna learn more about Dolly through that.
Yeah.
So there's good potential for new reveals, I think.
I agree, and yeah, there's one dream that Dolly had where it basically said she has to tell them, and that seems rather important. Who's them? What does she have to tell?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah. But besides all the mystery stuff with Dolly, I just love Dolly's personality.
Yeah,
Uh, she's hilarious, uh,
absolutely.
charming, and yeah, like just not what I expected.
Not at all. I mean,
Uh,
yeah, as you said, we thought this was Fushi, so this is something very
yeah,
different.
indeed.
Hmm.
Couple of highlights that I'll bring up are her kind of obsessiveness with hunting down the immortals because she wants to become human, right? She thinks that's a great way to do so. And then when they capture two of them, she suddenly flips sides and has this gun and cigar. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
surprise! I flip sides, and it was just that was so funny that whole moment.
Oh yeah,
Um,
so
the
good.
short lived betrayal, and then the punching scene that precedes that is hilarious.
It's great. And speaking of the punches, she lifted the truck,
Yeah,
which I'm assuming she managed to do
or the
because,
train.
or the train, sorry, yeah. I'm assuming she managed to do that because she said that she was going to do it before she did it. If it's another like voice activated thing,
Oh yeah, voice acting. Oh, I
because she
forgot
didn't
about that.
seem to be strong unless something was spoken like that.
Yeah,
And so she says, "I lift it up so you get out when I do." I think maybe it's thanks to her having said that just before lifting it that she managed to actually lift it. Perhaps.
yeah, right. Because otherwise, it doesn't seem consistent
Uh huh.
with everything else.
Right. So it probably is that way.
I thought that the question that Dolly asks the immortals, "What do you live for?"
Hmm.
I thought it was a good question,
For sure.
uh, and no one seemed to have an answer. If anything, they're like, "Well, that's a dumb question."
Yeah, it got really
Was
awkward.
it though?
No, no, I don't think it was. Uh,
Yeah. So
hopefully they'll all be able to answer that maybe later in the
right.
arc.
Yeah. I hope Dolly doesn't you know put that aside and never think about it again, but actually brings it up.
Uh huh.
And yeah,
Absolutely.
that'd be good. I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's everything I have on Dolly.
Yeah, same here. Then next, let's talk a bit about Kanitaro,
Yeah.
the toy crab. So,
Yeah.
well, apparently this one is better at acting scared for his life than other toys are, according to that kid that was torturing toys. Um, that's like big like Sid from Toy Story vibes.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but it still seemed like Kanitaro still seems very much like a programmed robot, uh,
Hmm.
especially compared to Dolly. Still, the comment from that kid about Kanitaro being better at acting scared for his life than other toys did get me thinking about like if Kanitaro is also special in some way. Probably not, or definitely
Hmm.
not in the same way as Dolly, but maybe in some other way.
Yeah.
I do think there's more to him than meets the eye.
I think Kanitaro gave great exposition. Like he, it's a great way to introduce us to the, or not introduce us, to explain the world that we were seeing. What things have changed
Right.
compared to the modern age, and kind of giving us a good frame of reference for uh, how strange Dolly is and things like that.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah, and like maybe all or a lot of the toys are just like Kanitaro. Like maybe he isn't anything special, but I don't know. Like there was the comment from the kid, and there's also the fact that well, I guess it's just funny, or maybe we shouldn't think too much about it. But both Dolly and Kanitaro look like toys from hundreds of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
They're not the same toys. Like obviously, these are newly fabricated, or at least definitely Kanitaro is. So why would they like why would they make the Kanitaro toy based off of March's old crab plushie,
Mm-hmm.
and not only make it look the same way, but also program into it the ability to recognize March as his mother?
Yeah.
Like that is so strange.
Yeah, that is a good point. I thought that was, well. First, I thought it was touching. Like I
Oh,
got
for
a little
sure,
teary eyed
it's
when they had
beautiful.
it. It's like,
Yeah,
mommy.
it's so
It's
so
sweet.
sweet, so wholesome.
But I also did think, yeah, wait, why is that programmed in something that was supposedly made by Kaibara?
Right.
Doesn't quite make sense. So I didn't think much into it after that, but you do bring up a good point. Maybe there is something special about this.
Hmm.
I did at first think it was strange that they would create the doll that March had. Why would
Uh-huh.
that be the toy that you're able to buy? I feel like Kaibara would try to erase that from existence entirely. Um, but maybe not. Or I should say maybe not. But yeah, maybe it's something, a different maker that put it into production somehow. Um, I guess it's not guaranteed that every single toy or every single item comes from Kaibara. Is it?
I don't think that's definitely the case now. So I think the crab might be from another developer or whatever
Yeah.
producer. Um, I guess we don't really know.
Yeah.
But regardless, it's strange. Like this was like I believe March's time, or like the time when Fushi became a boy, and like when the story started, that was like 1,300 years ago or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. But March has been on and off alive for, you know,
Mm,
centuries.
true.
So who's to say that they wouldn't have been a wild Kanitaro out and about, and then someone saw it, and et cetera, et
Yeah.
cetera. I don't know.
No,
I don't
it's definitely
I don't know all the
possible,
details.
and like
Yeah.
same thing goes for Dolly's design. Like that doll
Right.
is probably also newer than the doll from back in Renreal, or no, well, or was it Renreal? I can't remember. It was around that time anyway. Um,
Yeah.
so it's also interesting that they would make new dolls that look that way too. I wonder if there is reason to it, or if it's just I don't know. Well, there's got to be some kind of reason to it. I guess. I guess.
Well, I'm not necessarily counting on that there has to be a reason for it. If anything, I think it's kind of neat to have these callbacks to earlier in the story.
Definitely.
Um, but
Yeah.
I would not be opposed to there being some sort of, master toy crafter who somehow is an ally to Fushi and the Immortals.
Ooh, that would be
Who
fun.
knows? Yeah.
Oh yeah, like a super fan and a supporter, kind
Or,
of.
someone who knows the true history,
Uh-huh.
maybe some sort of sympathizer of them, but
Yeah, maybe a descendant of someone that we know.
yeah, right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I yeah, who knows? Who knows if Yuki had descendants or not?
precisely.
But it doesn't necessarily have to be Yuki, but
Oh.
that would be a strong candidate.
Would be kind of funny if it's a descendant of one of the crew,
The crew.
one of the guys that's going along with Fushi through time, like one of the immortals, basically.
Oh, I thought you meant one of the occult club members.
Oh, oh, oh. No, but like yeah, like Fushi's comrades.
There was a guy who liked dolls or figures, but yeah, I don't know
Oh, yeah.
if that equates. Anyway, uh, I really love Kanitaro and Dolly's banter. That is one of the great parts of this manga is just them going back and forth with each other,
Oh
not
yeah,
just for the exposition, but also just the hilarity of it all.
it is very good.
Uh, yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I think it's also fun to see Kanitaro, like this crab toy, being well alive in a way, uh, because of the volume 2 cover art where we have grown up March and all of her toys kind of being alive around her.
See,
So that
it's
that
an
is very
Easter
sweet.
egg.
It could just be, but I hope for more.
I think it's really cool. We got upgrades though. The we call it grapple hook or whatever. I don't
Yeah,
know,
like the
it was
extendable
really
arms.
yeah, it's really cool.
That is great. I wonder if it can walk like forward now as well.
Yeah,
If it
that was
got an
one of
upgrade
the
like that.
Dolly's request.
Hopefully they didn't make it dumber.
Dolly's so funny.
Yeah.
Um, my last thing is Kanitaro just going down to its knees.
Oh yes.
If it has knees, but I'm not worthy when
Yes.
when he sees Fushi.
Fushi,
That
I'm
was
not
great.
worthy. It's so great. That was probably the biggest laugh for me in this volume.
Oh well, here's another thing about Kanitaro and all of the exposition is that he had the details, like the programming of the Kaibara education and how, you know, Hayase is the one true prophet, or you know what I mean.
Uh huh.
Uh, and so that seems kind of odd to be in a creation of someone who would be Fushi's ally. You would think that the
Oh yeah.
programmer would have not included it, but maybe
Right.
for espionage purposes, maybe you couldn't do that. But I don't know. That's just
Yeah.
something to put up out there.
Yeah. I guess another thing to just throw out there is the possibility that Kanitaro was created by someone who opposes Fushi's allies, and that the reason why, or the purpose of it recognizing March is so that, well, is like so it can serve as a tracking device to locate
Oh
March and by extension the others.
no, Kanitaro, no!
I mean, I don't know, just throwing that one out there as well.
This could be a terrible death on the level of Gugu.
No, it could. Oh, not again.
No. Um. Yeah, but glad to have them, Dolly and Kanitaro, just fantastic additions to this cast.
For sure, yeah, it's a very strong opening volume for both of them. Well then, next I'd like to talk a bit about Tonari.
Great, I do too.
Lovely. So, she and the rest of Fushi's friends are all wanted criminals now because of Kaibara's propaganda. And apparently, the routine has kind of been for Tonari to get caught on purpose in order to get information and die and be resurrected back home and whatnot, so that they can continue to have the upper hand, sort of, against Kaibara. But I think it's very kind of dumb of the hunters to not see that pattern. Like they've caught her multiple times by now,
Yeah.
and they just continue to do it without seemingly without thinking about it as strange. I don't know. It's weird.
Indeed, I agree. They end up arguing, they being the immortals, about who had the coolest death,
Yeah.
and I kind of maybe wonder, are they losing their humanity in that sense?
Oh yeah.
Because if you
Mm.
remember when we first started, well, it wasn't first. It was like towards the middle of the story, probably near the end of the Renreal arc.
Mm-hmm.
We were wondering if Fushi would lose a bit of his humanity, or if the repeated dying would, be a good or bad thing. We kind of put that aside for a bit, especially since Fushi really didn't want them to die at all during the modern arc.
Precisely.
Uh, but now we're at this point where death is nothing to them. They don't care, and maybe that's a good thing. Um, but also, I bring up Dolly's question again. Why do you
Mm.
live then?
Yeah.
You know, it's or what do you live for? I should say.
Uh huh.
I think it's a good question to ask, and the fact that they are so haphazard about dying, or or rather, they rather it be a competition of who had the coolest death. It
Yeah.
just does make me wonder. But these are immortal beings at this point. We're talking about, um, so maybe trying to understand their ways. An immortal mindset is just not possible. I don't know.
Right. But I do think it is. Well, basically I think you're on to something by questioning that, because obviously it has been a topic before in the story, not just for Fushi, but for, well, really the first time I think it was really for the three warriors, like the immortal warriors,
Yeah.
as they were initially, how they were just throwing away their lives without hesitation, without thought, because they knew they'd be resurrected.
Yeah.
And now everyone's doing that. And it makes sense because it's been going on for hundreds of years now, and they are getting used to it, as sad as that sounds.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we probably can't really comprehend it because obviously we can't live that life that they do. We don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I do think death is the more you're exposed to death, the less heavy it becomes as a topic for you.
Mm.
If you've experienced the deaths of a lot of people close to you, or just a lot of people in general, maybe
Mm-hmm.
I think you're less likely to react strongly to another death than if it's the first time you see somebody die, or know somebody that dies.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's a kind of a similar thing here. It's just happened. It's been bound to happen so many times for all of them that naturally it's easier. As brutal as that may sound.
Right. Now, is it a good thing or a bad thing, or a neutral thing? I guess you could say.
Yeah.
It may end up just being it is what it is. This is how they've come to deal with it, cope with it.
Precisely. I think it's like a coping mechanism or a defense mechanism, kind of, that when you have experienced it so many times, you can't afford, kind of, to be sad over it, or to find it to be that difficult, because if you felt that way each time, you wouldn't function, like it wouldn't work. So I think the body kind of learns to deal with it, and they're all numb to it now.
Yeah. To their credit, they vowed to be with Fushi for, I guess, eternity,
True,
and
true.
that means that they're gonna die eventually, and then come back, whether it be by old age, or by drinking yourself sick.
Yeah.
Um, so you know, I guess it's gonna happen one way or another. I accept it, and maybe look on the bright side. Hey, I had a pretty useful death this time, or something along those lines.
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
I think it really is just coming to understanding of their situation, versus what reality is.
Yeah.
Um, but I wouldn't be opposed to them bringing this up and maybe touching on it a bit. Maybe it does pain them a little bit that they've lost the meaning of death, or maybe it doesn't. Maybe they find relief in that or solace in that. I don't know.
I think it would be interesting, yeah, to see a discussion like that because I reckon the different characters would have different takes on it.
Yeah, I agree.
That would be fun to see. But yeah, Tonari had earlier found out about the Mizuha clones, and Fushi had apparently known about it even longer than Tonari had, but didn't really pay it much mind, I guess. Um, but now, on the most recent capture of Tonari, she found out that Kaibara were searching for something. And as they're kind of discussing it in the group, and as I interpreted their discussion, as I said at the beginning of the episode here, I think it is this power that the beholder left behind, the one that Fushi did not accept in the previous volume,
Mm,
that still exists somewhere on the earth, and
mm.
that's what they're looking for. But um, since we're on this topic, I'll talk about it here as well. Doesn't the Kaibara wish granting abilities already kind of seem like that power?
Mm,
Like
kind
it's
of.
very supernatural, and like I don't see that as like advanced technology at all. To me it looks like magic.
Yeah, kind of. So let me answer this with an answer to another question.
Uh-huh.
Learning this from Tonani, the immortals kind of come to the realization that, wait, are the knockers part of Kaibara? Which to me is like, well, duh. Of course they are. Like, what did you just think the knockers just went away? Like, I don't know what happened in the 500 years since the modern arc. I
Mm,
don't know. I don't know what you guys are doing. Maybe you
mhm,
got rid of the knockers somehow. I don't know.
mm,
But when we last left it, Yuki was trying to work towards worlds where they had harmony and unity.
mm.
Um, and then Kaibara comes on the scene, and to me, it seems like Kaibara, knowing their background, which we'll talk about in a bit, has been working with the knockers, and the way that they are able to grant people's wishes is through the knockers, like being inside people,
Mm.
and transforming them in that way. I don't know if
Oh.
that's just a new facet of their powers per se, but
Mm.
we did see the modern arc some very transformational moments with some of the uh, knockers and people.
True. That's I hadn't thought of that at all. I like that. That definitely would explain some things. Because my
Yeah.
other speculation on this, because I hadn't really considered the knock. Well, I considered the knockers definitely had some part to play with Kaibara, but not like this. My speculation was that Kaibara may have already found at like a part of the beholder's power, and that they've been using it, but that there still
Mm.
exists more of the beholder's power
Mm-hmm.
left out there somewhere. So they're looking for the other parts or whatever. Um,
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
but yeah, I guess I guess we'll have to see. I like the knocker idea though.
We'll see. That could be very interesting. But yeah, I do think knockers. I feel like knockers play a key part into that the current power that they have. But also, there's also technology. You did mention there's fantasy, but I do think that there is some high tech being used here. Um, for example, the one Immortal Hunter guy, he has this. I forget what the machine was for. It's basically made big bubbles,
Yeah,
and he was able to bring it out thin air. But there was these cubes, I think, that he used to bring it out. So
yeah.
there is some sort of sciencey tech, I believe, that uh, is being used here, along with the whole uh, likes and
Mm.
that system.
Well, right.
So
That
uh,
also for sure. Yeah, Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
definitely, it is definitely advanced technology. Like, it is the future, and it definitely has advanced technology. But I still feel like, or well, if my theory is right that they already have a part of the beholder's power, then
Mm-hmm.
these summoning these weapons could be that power.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, no, for sure that could
but
be. I'm still leaning towards it just being high tech,
could
really.
be, could
Um,
be.
but that said, you know, that could definitely be a potential reason for it. Um, but I do think the transformations are have to be knocker related.
Right. Yeah. Like, well, unless it is beholder power. But
Oh well,
but but
I
but but but
guess.
I like the knocker idea a lot though. I think that's definitely a good possibility.
Yeah. So then going back just a bit to the sphere, I when they brought up the sphere, the way they said it at first, or what it implied, almost made me feel like it was like, wait, they talk about Fushi itself because
Right.
I know Fushi came or started out as a sphere.
Mm-hmm.
Did he separate himself from the sphere and then grew into the Fushi we know now? And the sphere was left alone? But
Oh.
but your point, it makes much more sense that it was the beholder's power, especially the way they're talking about it and how the beholder said it wasn't it would go away, but then Fushi's like, well, he does lie, so
True.
that was the thing. I don't know. It's confusing.
Right. Well, yeah, and like the discussion they have about basically if they were able to get their hands on it before the Kybara cybernetics, then Fushi may be able to turn Dolly into a human because that's the types of powers he would attain if he would accept that
Mm-hmm.
power, right? Like that he could have
Yeah.
gotten last volume, but he didn't. Um, but that said, though, uh, I mean, I could be wrong, and maybe it is more along the lines of what you were saying, because the volume does, after all, start off with that backstory of Fushi, how he started off as that orb, and the way that he became, or the way that he got life initially was because this orb landed next to a rock, and then Fushi became the rock, or a duplication of the rock, and then he
Mm-hmm.
became the duplication of the moss on the rock, and then the wolf
Mm-hmm.
came and died on the moss or on the rock, and he became the wolf. Like he doesn't, or I don't know. So yeah, maybe that orb that he was initially within or whatever, maybe it was left lying there in the snow. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and they also bring up how Kaibara is, or I think Tonari brings it up that they're digging in places that they haven't been, that they wouldn't,
Right.
they being the immortals wouldn't be.
Uh huh.
Um, so maybe that does lend credence to when Fushi started,
Yeah.
wherever that was, somewhere up north, I suppose,
Right.
which is not somewhere that I would expect the immortals have been.
Yeah.
This is a very interesting premise that's being brought up. And I'll have more to say in predictions, but I do think that it is real and it is something that they need to find before
Mm-hmm.
Kaibara does. And whether they found a piece of it or not, the immortals need to, or Fushi needs to get his hands on it before Kaibara completely does.
Yeah, and this time he doesn't have much of a choice. He kind of has to take that.
Right, right.
Yeah. All right. That's all on Tonari?
Um, I love her new design.
Yes.
I don't think we've seen this look for her yet, and fantastic. And then
Yeah.
I love when she pulls out the water gun. It's like, look, samesies.
Yeah.
That was fun too. So
Very
that's all
nice.
I have on her.
Great. Then next let's talk a bit about Kai. He spends his days now helping the poor, taking goods as payment, but then transferring them to kids that have only one star. He's doing good work.
He's a good guy.
Very good guy.
Yeah,
Good
he really is.
good Kai.
and it makes sense that he's tinkering with objects. Like that's kind of been his
Hmm.
motif, if you will.
Yeah, isn't that?
Um,
And speaking of different age or new ages, like I enjoy this older Kai. Like
Old man Kai.
it kind of fits him somehow.
Yeah.
And I like how he helped make Dolly's face more expressive.
Yeah, when I first saw him, I wasn't sure if it was him or Yuki. To be honest,
Oh, Yuki. Mm.
well, the only reason I thought Yuki is just I couldn't see the full face, and
Well, yeah. Hmm.
it's the curse of having the same artist, right? So sometimes they look a little similar,
Yeah.
but that would have been really cool if somehow Yuki, joined the Immortals
It would have been, but I assume
ranks.
his
But
Fi went to paradise.
yeah,
It probably did.
I guess Fi is not, or not Fi. Fushi's not recruiting anymore
Yeah, he's got
for
a
the
full
time being.
team. Yeah, actually, when I first saw Kai, I speculated in my head that it may have been Fushi, like an older Fushi or
Ah,
older body Fushi or whatever.
that would have been cool too.
Especially with the hood, I was like, he's mimicking his dad, but with the white hood instead of a black one. But yeah, no, was not him. Next, let's talk a bit about Echo.
Woo!
She got an upgraded helmet with like manipulating Earth as a way of communication. I love that.
Pretty ingenious.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. I wonder if she invented it herself,
Mm,
because she seems to have this newfound ability to invent things. And I mean, she's the one
true.
that improved Kanitaro.
Right.
It could have been Kai who made it, or somebody else, but I don't know. I kind of like the idea that she made it for herself so she could communicate better.
Yeah, I like that as well.
But now she doesn't need it because she can talk.
Yeah, sort of.
Stroganoff, yakiniku, or whatever she said.
Yeah. Yeah, she's doing her best.
I love it.
uh,
Oh, skiyaki. That's what it was. Skiyaki.
yeah. Yeah, and mud.
Oh, she said mud too. Yeah.
Yeah. Then we got Fushi.
We do have Fushi.
And this has got to be the least we've ever seen Fushi in a volume.
It's true. Whew.
I was starting to worry that he wouldn't appear in the volume at all.
It's like, bro, you're on the cover.
Yeah.
You gotta appear. Well, I mean, he technically did appear a little bit after the middle, where you had the big entrance for the Immortals. He helped out. He helped take down some of the
True.
um, hunter guys.
Right.
So that was it. But you're right. Like we didn't get the real reveal return of Fushi
Right.
until the very end.
And it was a majestic reveal.
Yeah, it was a Thor-like entrance.
Yeah. Amazing.
You mentioned earlier that he already knows about the Mizuha clones.
Mm.
That just makes me wonder, how much does he already know about the whole situation, about everything?
Precisely.
What is he keeping? And why is he keeping things secret?
Yeah, I was also a bit disappointed in that. Like, I thought he would start sharing everything with his friends now, but no, I guess not.
Why are we doing this again?
Fushi, my boy.
I don't know. Maybe he just feels that they don't need to know. They don't need to know that.
Yeah.
I guess it beats me.
Hmm.
Beats me.
He's a complicated fella. But I did very much like how he believes in Dolly. Like, from the start, he believes in
Yes.
Dolly, and he welcomes her to their family, like, very happily, like, with open arms.
I do love that as well.
That was very sweet. I'm very excited to see, I guess, their friendship or their relationship grow. Because I think they have some stuff in common, like, more or less, they both have a desire or have had a desire to be more human. And I think that's something that they can share in once they get to know each other better. Yeah, and yeah, get closer, and I yeah, think that could be neat to follow.
I agree. I agree.
Next, let's talk a bit about Anton Day.
Hey,
This,
I'm glad you bring it up.
yeah, I mean, we got this 8-year-old boy who got his 5 stars from shooting Tonari with his poisonous blow dart,
Mm-hmm.
and he was the same kid that we saw being created in the opening pages of this book.
Indeed.
One green eye and one purple eye.
Oh, oh,
I believe that's because they said I think his parents asked for that when they created him.
oh! I totally missed it. The colors.
Obviously, there's no colors in the volume, but
Oh yeah, literally said green and purple.
yeah.
I'm screwed over that.
But
Yeah,
and yeah, he seems pretty obsessed with joining Kyber Cybernetics.
I would agree. Is it a coincidence that we've followed him from his birth to him getting 5 stars? Like, it could have been just two separate entirely people, but no.
Precisely, right.
Oima decided to be the same person.
Yeah, no, this is definitely someone who will stick around
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
agree.
I would honestly like to see this guy grow older.
Oh,
Like I don't want well, it's probably still gonna be good, but the way I'm feeling about it right now, I'd prefer if he's not 8 years old for this whole arc.
yeah.
I think he's got potential, but I'd like to see him grow more.
Yeah, I mean, we have these characters that are immortal, so aging up or aging down, or well, aging up, I should say,
Mhm.
is not a big deal for them. So we could easily get like a 5, 10 year time skip at some point within the middle of this arc
Mhm.
and talk about Anton. So that's, yeah, I like that. I didn't think about him being older, like showing that later, but no,
Mhm.
I agree. I think I would prefer that.
I mean, technically, I guess within this volume, he's already aged 8 years.
Yeah, yeah, right. Pretty
So
easy.
maybe he'll age another 8 in the next one.
Yeah, yeah. It's different, like say the modern arc. You can't really quickly age age the entire cast, entire
Mm,
uh main cast because there was they were all in middle school or something. So
precisely. Mm.
yeah, that would have been harder. But with this, yeah, you could totally do that.
Yeah.
I have thoughts about Anton,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna say him here because I don't necessarily think these are predictions
Yeah, go for it.
per se. I think there are two possibilities on why we're focusing on him. One could be that we are going to see Kaibara cybernetics through his eyes and
Mm,
how maybe corrupt it is, or just what is going down in there. And I
right.
think he could be a good storyteller of that,
Yeah,
or at least give us perspective of that.
right.
But the other one that's a little more conspiracy theory is that, doesn't it seem odd to you that he captures Tonani in the way he did with poison that somehow the immortals get their hands on, that they're able to, test, and Tonani's able to become immune to it or whatever?
Mm,
I I don't know. He said himself, "I'm the one who invented this poison."
precisely.
Now, is he lying? He could be,
He could be.
but I don't know. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't seem that that's necessarily the case. But uh, who was it that said it wasn't Kai? It was
Messar, maybe?
Hyro. It was Hyro who said
Mm-hmm.
that they had infiltrated the poison, or had gotten their hands on it. So what,
Yeah.
did they beat up the kid? Like what do they do? How do they get that?
Yeah.
Anyway, so that seems a little strange, and maybe there's a black market in play, which does kind of put into question uh, Anton's honesty here. But my conspiracy theory is, could he have been working with somebody, maybe even Fushi, to kind of set this whole thing up? Uh, the problem is, like, no one really acknowledges that, oh, Anton did a great job, or things like that. So it seems a little far fetched, but I don't know, it does seem strange to me that he would just be at the right place at the right time with this specific poison and things like that. So
Yeah.
just wanted to put it out there.
I mean, he definitely seems obsessed with, you know, getting the immortals so that he can get into Kaiwara. Like, I don't doubt that that's been his dream for as long as he can remember, maybe.
But why does he want to go into Kaibara though?
Because
Is
it's
it just to be part of
prestigious.
Kaibara, or yeah, or is he wanting to spy on them? I don't know.
Uh, hmm.
I don't
I mean,
know.
who really knows? Could be. Well, by the way, I did think of perhaps a functional explanation to how they got the poison,
Okay.
being that Fushi has spread his roots across the whole planet.
Mm-hmm.
He can observe basically the whole surface more or less,
Mm.
and so he could have observed that poison and then just recreated that poison back home
Oh.
for
Okay.
Tonari, perhaps.
Interesting. Interesting.
Um,
Then nothing really should be a secret. Although I guess they do talk about how Kaibata was able to may have been communicating by themselves. So
yeah.
fair
Plus,
enough.
Kaibara seems to be like hovering above the ground, like far into the sky in the clouds,
Yeah,
where Fushi may not have reached.
and it may not
Perhaps.
be as easy to get information up there because he definitely
Mm,
can get some information. Like he was able to know about the clones, but
true.
maybe he can't know everything.
Right. Yeah, and they also was it Bon, I think, mentioned something about like memory water or whatever. I can't remember what it was called
Right. That
exactly.
that's what I was alluding to.
Some kind
Yeah.
of yeah, some kind of way to communicate in secret.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's something that we'll learn more about, or if it was just like like a quick comment.
Yeah. Honestly, it was like, was I supposed to already know about that?
I don't think so, but
That was kind of one of those moments.
yeah,
Yeah. Memory water. It sounds like almost the way that Echo communicates with mud.
precisely. I
Except it's
was
with
also thinking about
water.
like it's like the elements somehow.
Yeah.
Um,
Very interesting.
but for sure.
I have another person to add to this conspiracy theory.
Uh huh.
If you're okay with moving on to someone else, real quick.
Absolutely.
So we don't have a name for this man, but he is a hunter. He's the dude with glasses
Yeah.
and the finger gloves, except for one finger.
Precisely.
Uh, Now he's introduced at the beginning of the story, clearly hunting for Dolly. Like that's his main target. But there's a moment where you have the confrontation with the hunters and the immortals that he holds Echo and Kai hostage along with Dolly. But then he kind of doesn't he get rid of Dolly? Like he kind of maybe out of necessity throws it away, but then he goes after Bon and has like this little scuffle, I guess, up there. Um, but that's a bit short lived because once Tonari faints and everyone hails Anton as the hero, he just gives up. Well, I mean, granted, it's almost played as if he sees the hunter's about to get to a fight and then he goes away like as maybe he's going to stop them, although we don't actually see that.
Hmm.
But it seems like why wouldn't he focus on the immortal he has in his hands?
Yeah.
Why would he just drop him? If that's your goal is to capture these guys, why would you do that? And then everyone kind of just, you know, looks slyly as they, all right guys, let's go. And Tsunade says yada yada does and they, I don't think she actually said that, but the you know, they go with their Tonari plan.
yeah.
So to me, it almost seems like this guy is in on it.
Yeah. Where did he go?
it I don't know. I don't know. He seems strange to me, but I have no doubt that he still has connection to Dolly. Um, I just don't understand why he would kind of give up on all that, and give up
Yeah.
on capturing an immortal, especially one, like Bowen, who
Yeah.
has like a fortune.
True. That is strange. That is very strange. I hadn't really thought of that. I mean, he absolutely, left an impression. Like he's definitely a big bad guy that's gonna return to us, like on the pages.
here's another part of the conspiracy: is he a bad guy?
Yeah. Well, yeah,
Is
right.
he?
That's what you were gonna get to. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, is he in line with Anton somehow? Like, are they, you know, are they all part of this not sinister, but this conspiracy to maybe overthrow Kaibara, or unleash the secrets, or is it connection with Clone 32? I don't know. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I like it. Huh.
Okay, I'm done about that conspiracy.
All good, all good. Um, well, I don't have any other characters to bring up, so if you have any left, go for it.
I loved when March said she's talking with Messar, and she says he says, "I told you to stay at home," and then obviously she comes with Bear, and she's like, "Maybe you should have stayed at home."
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was a great clap back.
That
They were
was.
really going at each other
Uh-huh.
the entire time.
Yeah, it's very fun.
And then this is actually a little longer, but I will try to make sure I don't repeat anything we said.
Hmm?
I have a whole section about Kaibara cybernetics.
Ah,
The symbol on the back changed again,
it did.
and it's the
Mm-hmm.
current logo. Yes, it's the current logo of Kaibara.
Yes.
The previous one was the old logo. I don't know why they thought they'd change. I guess after 500 years, it's due for a change. I don't know.
I guess so.
But yeah, so there's a new logo. I guess they couldn't change the bottom of headquarters though. So go figure.
Yeah, and like, because we also talked about this last time, how before this volume at least, there had been two different versions of that triangle behind the
Uh-huh.
on the backside of the covers. So that like up till then, it had changed somewhere around volume 14 or something like that, I believe.
Yeah.
So this is technically the third iteration of this triangle that we have on the back of volume 20.
Yeah.
My guess is that these three iterations of this crest are all Kaibara Cybernetics Corporation emblems, just different, like as they've updated
Even the
the
first
design.
one with the arms?
I guess. I mean, what else would it have been? I guess
I don't know.
it's my only assumption that I can make.
Well, this kind of goes into one of my next points is that Vaughn confirms that the Guardians are still around. They basically were the ones that started Kaibara.
Yeah.
Mizuha may have tried to ended them, but they're just so stupidly stubborn that they're able to continue, perhaps under the guise of Kaibara cybernetics.
Mm-hmm.
Hence why we have Mizuha clones.
Yeah.
But maybe the first iteration of that symbol we see was the Guardian's symbol originally, and maybe now we're seeing the different iterations of it. But I don't know. I don't know if we've seen. I feel like Kahaku would have shown a symbol like that at some point. Maybe he did. I just don't remember. But
I don't know. Like if it would have been a
any
Guardian's crest, like the first one.
yeah,
my idea.
That
Could have been.
just to go along with what you said.
Right.
Because I do think it would be kind of strange if that was the Kaibara company's first logo.
From the start, like ever since
who
volume
made
1,
this?
we've been teased on Kaibara Cybernetics. I mean,
Maybe,
who knows?
yeah. But since I brought up Mizuha, it's interesting that we have all these clones, and yet Fushi says that they're fine. They're not. Well, and Tonari says, I guess I should say, they're not really Mizuha. They're their own separate identities.
Uh-huh.
So that means that none of them have the actual Phi of Hayase.
Unless one does.
I mean, one could.
One could.
One could somehow have had
At most one.
And maybe it's the Dolly. I don't know.
Right.
That'd be quite interesting.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't break our kind of realization moment that we had in the previous arc, where we felt like the chain was broken, and how the reincarnation chain was broken, and that Mizuha didn't have to necessarily have a child. Didn't need to continue on the Hayase Phi
Yeah.
line. But if the Guardians or Kaibara forced it on her, or after her death, forced the Phi to come back somehow with all these clones,
Hmm.
then maybe I don't know if that's how it works. I think that once the Phi goes up, it doesn't really come back. Although, no, that's not necessarily the case. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's reincarnation has been strange with Hayase line, so
Yeah.
but yeah, I wonder if she had any children. It'd be interesting to find out.
Yeah. Like, I would assume that she wouldn't have if they, or at least that somewhere along the 500-year time gap that the line would have ended.
Yeah,
Though I guess it would make most sense if it was Mizuha herself who didn't further it,
right.
since it's her that they're cloning, and still are cloning. Supposedly they've been doing
Yeah,
it more or less this whole time, maybe.
or at least when they got the
As
technology.
soon as they, yeah, yeah, they must have like saved some DNA or something like that from her,
Ugh,
I guess,
oh boy, these guys are
somehow.
ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, like I do wonder if Hayase Phi even is a big deal still.
You mean if it's still in the story anymore?
Right, yeah. I mean, obviously we know that we're still dealing with Hayase's descendants in a way, even though yeah, they're
Mm-hmm.
clones of Mizuha.
Mm-hmm.
But it like if Hayase's Phi itself is not relevant anymore, which obviously it may be or it may not be, but if it's not, then I feel like it's a pretty big change in the story because we've always had Hayase since volume 1.
Yeah,
So it would be a bit of a shift, I guess.
I agree. I agree. Oh man, I'm so excited to see where this arc is going. Ugh.
Oh yes.
So a couple things just about the world.
Hmm?
Um, these supposed rights that they establish are only given to babies born from Kaibara.
Yeah.
Um, does that mean there are still regular people in the world somewhere? I would think the world is a very large place that
Yeah.
supposedly that would be the case.
I would assume they would mostly be like on the level 0 plane of existence or whatever.
Right.
Like
Well, yeah.
with the mortals, those who do die have 0 stars,
Yeah.
but they can still probably, maintain life there like normal people do. Normal people that do die after a couple of decades.
Yeah. It makes me wonder how advanced their civilization is
Mhm.
compared to what it's like under the Kaibara reign.
Right.
Yeah, it's a fascinating world that she's setting up here.
It really is.
And so, talking about the that world, there's a diagram of the different degrees at which you can progress or live,
Mhm.
and it's obviously in this futuristic society, but this chart looks very almost medieval, I'd say, in some ways, very religious looking. Just the way that it's like Fushi watching over this great tree, and
Uh-huh.
all his transformations are around, and everything comes from Fushi.
Yeah.
And then you have these different degrees of, I guess, glory or exaltation. It it again reminds me of my own religion
Oh, really?
in that there are different degrees of, I guess you could say, heaven, um,
Ah.
granted to certain individuals who, based on their actions on Earth or whatever.
Hmm.
Uh, no, it's not five. It's only three, but
Well, still, yeah, that's
but
interesting.
that's still a potential comparison. But it's not necessarily something that's new to, I'd say, religions or Christianity.
Fair.
Another one that comes to mind is Dante's Inferno. I don't know if you've heard or read that.
Yeah, right, with the different layers of hell, right?
yeah, that one's hell, so a little
Yeah.
different.
Still, but
But
yeah.
I guess you could argue this is a different kind of hell.
I was just gonna say that. Yeah.
So
Right.
anyway, I thought that was interesting, and I like the inspiration she's taking, and
Yeah.
yeah, just Kaibata and the Guardians are just messed up people, man.
Yeah. Well, for me, coming from my Scandinavian point of view, seeing the world depicted as a tree, I think of Yggdrasil from Norse mythology,
Ah,
which contained nine realms, also layers in a way. Well, not exactly like this, but still.
oh, okay.
Um,
Still, yeah, that's a pretty good comparison.
hmm.
I think that's all I have on Kaibata,
Alrighty.
and I think that's everything for me.
Cool, cool, cool. I don't really have a lot of predictions left. A lot, like really, pretty much all of it has been mentioned or sprinkled throughout the
Mm-hmm.
discussion so far. But I did have one thought regarding the tag chip that Dolly has, and I started thinking about it near the end of the volume, where well, obviously, well, we didn't know about it until near the end of the volume, but when it started giving off the message about the owner of this being dead and whatnot, and that it should be returned to Kaibara,
Mm-hmm.
I got the thought that they they should have put some kind of GPS on it.
Mm.
Like Kaibara Cybernetics ought to have done that, and then they should be able to just, I guess, locate them and retrieve the chip. It seems like we are in that type of a future where a corporation like Kaibara would do something like that to the chips that they implant in pretty much every person.
I mean, hey, if they don't, then that's kind of a good sign, right? They respect people's privacy,
Yeah,
right?
sure, sure.
Not tracking everybody, maybe
Uh huh.
better than some of our governments, right? Or our marketing, I guess you say. Or
Yeah.
but no,
Right. Mm.
that's a great point, especially with a chip like that. You think they
Uh
would
huh.
be tracking it,
Yeah.
and maybe they are. Maybe the guy with glasses is actually working with Kaibata, and he's been tracking Dolly.
Oh.
That could be one thing.
That could be. Yeah.
I do think we're going to see him again, and he may even break into the where Fushi is, just as he tries to track down Dolly.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got a few potential predictions here.
Shoot.
Obviously, they got to break into Kaibata. I feel like that's kind of given. Again, I know Tonari's been doing it, but I think they got to do it again because they're gonna need more info. Where are they going?
Mm.
What have they found so far? Do they have a piece of the sphere already? As you mentioned, etc., etc.
Right.
And I think because the Tonari thing has worked so well, they'll do it again. However, Kaibata will figure out a way to either keep her from dying or trap her Phi somehow. You remember how
Hmm.
I forget their names, but the two friends of Bon that are always usually with him,
Yeah.
the two Phi.
Uh huh.
I remember when they were kind of gone, like I don't know, captured, but they were missing for a bit. And I can't remember if they were just afraid to go anywhere or if the knockers actually did kind of keep them captive
I think they
for a
weren't
time.
they just scared. It was. I think it was a bit unclear for a while, but
Uh-huh. But they were just
I
scared.
th- I my memory on it is not great right now. I just I
Yeah.
just remember it being established at some point that all Phi are equal.
Yes.
So like actually restrain for one Phi to actually restrain another shouldn't be possible.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But rules are made to be broken sometimes.
That's
You know.
fair. That is fair.
You never know.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I think it's possible that they could somehow prevent Tonari from dying, like figure out how she's killing
Mm.
herself, and then she's just kind of stuck there.
That's definitely a good possibility.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and so that could lead them to definitely try to break in literally to save Tonari.
Yeah, right.
Um,
That they would actually learn from their mistakes and understand the pattern that Tonari just keeps getting purposely caught.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think that I know this sounds terrible, but maybe we are due for something very tragic to happen.
Such as?
Um, such as a permanent death to maybe one of the immortals. I know
Ooh.
that may seem impossible, but I've already said some things that were already deemed impossible. So let's add another one. Kai mentioned that he all he ever does is die from was it
Like a
wasn't chronic
genetic
illness, what was it?
illness?
Genetic disease,
Hmm.
yes. And he almost seemed kind of bummed about it, or it's nothing special or something like that.
Yeah.
So to me, it almost seems like that could be a hint at a future grand death that he would have in order to protect or save somebody or uh,
Hmm.
make sure something happens, and maybe somehow Kaibara the Knockers have this ability to force Fi back to the beyond. I forget what
Like
it was called.
paradise, I think.
Paradise. That's what it was.
Hmm.
Force them to paradise.
Hmm.
Um, but
Yeah.
again, that goes against the all fire equal thing, of course. Um,
Unless I guess there's like multiple hostile Phis against one Phi.
I don't know.
Like,
Maybe.
well, yeah, I don't, but yeah, like it would be exciting if something like that happened. I will admit.
I mean, I don't want to see Kai go.
No.
I love them all,
Yeah.
but there's thinking about who could go that wouldn't ruin my life per se. I'd still be upset about Kai, but he kind of gave this somewhat sad explanation of how he dies, and I thought,
Mm.
no, maybe you'd want more. I don't know.
Yeah. Or I guess another like alternative to how a permanent death could happen is that one of them just decides to go to paradise
Yeah,
by their own choice after having died at some point. Like, yeah, like, no, I'm done
yeah,
here. Like, I've been living for hundreds of years. That's plenty.
yeah. Maybe they just get tired, and
Mm.
I don't know. It could be interesting to see how Fushi takes that.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Um,
And I'm so stoked to see just more of Fushi in the next volume because I did not get enough of him here, and especially with this new age, like we haven't seen him for 500 years. Like, what is up with him right now? I just want to
yeah.
get to know this Fushi, I guess, the Fushi of this era.
Speaking of Fushi, I think by the end of this arc, he will become the new beholder. I think that he will accept those powers. I know that Satoru said that the powers will disappear, but whether they actually disappeared or not, I think Fushi can obtain them
Hmm.
either on his own or by finding this superior, supposedly.
Right.
And I think he will eventually take that on. Um, I'm not sure what the reason will be, but I feel like that's where the story will go.
Yeah, I think he has to. Like, I think he's gonna have to do it in order to make sure it doesn't fall into the wrong hands. Like, he has to take it
Yeah,
for that reason.
yeah. Now, can he take it and not accept it? Is that possible?
Like just take the power and not use it.
I mean, it seems that this power is somehow tangible,
Yeah.
right? Like someone can pick it up, grab it, take it.
Right.
So couldn't he, without taking it into himself, just pick it up and put it on a shelf somewhere and be like, okay, it's gone. Put it in the safe, and
Yeah.
now no one will ever to get it.
Suppose he
Not
could.
that I want that,
No,
but
no.
maybe it could. Maybe that could happen. Like he hides it,
Yeah.
but then he's left with a choice. Like or almost an ultimatum, like he has to take this power, otherwise everything that he's built is going to come crumbling down or something.
Yeah.
Don't know. Just an option.
But yeah, no, I do agree with you that he probably will end up with that power. Uh, Most likely by the end of this arc. But do you think that this is the final story arc of To Your Eternity?
Um, that's a great question. We've been kind of consistent on 6 volumes versus 12 volumes. Remind me, how many volumes per arc
Well, it's
has it been?
been you could divide the first two arcs at least into 6 and 6. Like from the first
Uh,
one to the end of Tonari's story, basically. That's the first 6 volumes, and then the next 6 volumes being the Bon and Kahaku era.
uh-huh.
But then there's 7 volumes in the modern age.
Oh, that's true. So they could go more
They could go
with
more.
this one.
Hmm. They could
Um,
also maybe divide the future part of the story into 2 arcs. Like
yeah,
technically, we had 12 volumes in the past, like in a past inspired setting. But that one could be set like divided into 2 or maybe more parts, if depending on how you want to view it.
yeah. I think this is potentially I know potentially is not a strong word, but I do think this is the end. But I still think we're far from it.
Right.
I think in game would be him accepting Beholder, although he could still get the Beholder power and then need more time to completely understand it. It would be cool to see
Oh yes.
what he does with it, but maybe that's more of a epilogue where you get a couple chapters and that's about it.
Yeah, I honestly I wouldn't mind like a full arc of him
Yeah, I
with
would love that.
the full power set.
Yeah,
Like
I agree. Seeing the world he creates in a way.
precisely. And I think that would be more reassuring compared to just having the story end once he gets that power, because then anything can happen and we don't know how he would use it, what he would do with it. But getting
Yeah,
sort of a full arc of him with the powers would give us an idea of what his world would really be like.
yeah.
So I think it's likely that we'll get kind of 2 major arcs in the future, and maybe the second one would be even further into the future, like another 500 years or a
Hmm.
thousand more
Hmm.
years into the future than we already are at, perhaps. Because we're in the future, we can go into the more distant future.
Or a crazy theory I had a long time ago, maybe he creates an entirely new planet that starts from scratch.
Ooh,
Um, and maybe he sets up the next successor, his next successor,
yeah. I
another
mean,
Fushi, maybe.
definitely, I definitely also like that idea of him creating a child in a way, like the Beholder created Fushi.
Yeah.
But I think he could do that on this Earth.
And then just continue into the future.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting. But along those lines, unfortunately, I see no romance between Fushi and Tonari, or just
Right.
anybody or anything. Like that's been
Yeah.
something that I've wanted for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Not obviously Tonari's ship, but Fushi experiencing parenthood. I really wanted to, and the beholder was even like, I gave you the reproductive organs. You totally could do it, and yet we are this far in, and it seems like that's the last thing on anybody's mind. Honestly, it felt in the previous arc like that could have actually been a thing, like a direction that
Mm-hmm.
you take.
Right.
But now I know we're just beginning the arc, but it seems that would almost be misplaced to start thinking about that kind of stuff. I don't know. Who knows? Things can change. Obviously, it's just the beginning of
Right.
it. But
Precisely. But I agree with you. This arc specifically felt very non-romantic. Uh,
yeah,
but I'm right there with you, hoping that it could, because I definitely think, you know, this arc can go a lot of different directions,
yeah, I guess.
and I think it would be a shame if Fushi never got to experience anything like that.
Yeah, I agree. That's all my predictions.
Great.
Very excited for this news story arc.
Yeah, yeah. This one really did a fantastic job at making us excited for this futuristic story.
Man, I know there are people who are still complaining about To Eternity, saying, "Oh, it dropped. It it fell off." What? After this, you can't. I feel like you people are just haters at this point.
Yeah.
Like this is an awesome arc. Yes, it's not the same. You know, someone dies in the arc, like or in the
Yeah.
volume. You know, it's not that same impact, but if you like the Renreal arc, I feel like this is
Oh
still
yeah.
gonna be is gonna hit that. Like I don't know. I'm not.
Mm.
I can't say for certain, but you know that arc started to build up slowly until it reached this climax, and I think this one will. And obviously, the modern day arc did as well. So
Oh yes.
you know, you guys just gotta open up your mind.
It's such an epic journey. Like it's such a unique story. Like I cannot say that enough. And
Yeah.
really, if the story had continued with the formula that it had for the first 6 volumes, it would have lost its impact. Like if we knew, okay, someone's gonna die every other volume, like that wouldn't have worked for 20 books.
No.
But I love what it's become, and I like Fushi's journey throughout the series, and and onward. Like it's something very special, I think.
Yeah. I only wish the anime was better.
I have. I'm gonna keep my hopes up for season 3. I hope they do that one
Yeah.
justice.
Here's hoping.
Yeah, but I guess that's mostly it here. If you enjoy our content, you can follow us on Twitter at Umami Manga, and it would be lovely if you'd like to support us by rating our show on the podcast platforms and subscribing to our channel, Umami Manga, on YouTube. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time when we'll talk about Volume 21. Bye bye!
See ya later.
Do you need mental care? Then please come to the Church of Zumula.